This thing has been difficult from day one, but it'll make it that much sweeter when this car is done, because we'll know, like, damn, we did hella work to that thing to make it look like this whenever it's done, right? Like a show car. We did a ton of work, but these are the results. This is what I did. This is what I created or recreated. And sometimes the victory of a hard battle just makes it all the more worth it when you're all done. Even though it's hard, even though it's taking a long time, because there's just a ton of work on this car, it's still, at the end of the day, when you see that thing sitting at a show or even just driving it for the first time, there's nothing like that feeling of accomplishment of doing something that was super difficult. So upon further inspection, I came in this morning and got a fresh look at this left quarter panel, rear body panel section. And I really want to identify which way this thing has to go. I know for sure in this area right here, and I think I'm going to pull off of this lower holes here, because I'm going to use this whole panel. I'll probably trim the panel just a little bit, but here I'll leave as much as I can on there, and it probably come down a little bit here. But all this is all mangled in here from where they just beat it out, didn't even pull none of this out. This whole area right here is probably in about a good between 1/4 and 3/16 of an inch. It has a big old gap on this filler panel right here. And this filler panel, they just, on these filler panels on this rear body panel as well, they basically just got a pliers or something and bent this, and we're like, hell with it, it's going to be under the bumper, who cares? And so all this whole filler panel is all crumpled from where they just got pliers and just bend it on this thing. So I have to mock up a bumper before this thing gets any body work on it. I'll put this thing on a cart, a regular rolling cart, and then I'll put some 4x4s and 2x4s and build up a bumper just to get a look at it. And then I can always adjust my brackets on my bumper to fit where I want the bumper to fit, or even because there's no frame under this car, so the mock-up will just have to be the bumper looking good in a position where I know I can manipulate the bumper brackets and get it aligned where I want it, you know, whether it's bending them or whatever. But this whole car has been just a challenge, because there's just multiple things when they rush through these jobs that they do that is just basically Mickey a mouse. This whole area right here too is just kind of bent, and if you can see, it's kind of bowed out right here where the seam is at, because it's kind of bent in, and it bent this light in to where if you hammered any more on this right here to try to get this light out, because it's all dented right here and it's folded in, you could think of this quarter panel, you can't really tell by the naked eye, but by feeling it, I can feel that there's like kinks in the metal basically, or wrinkles. And so this whole taillight section is kind of just folded in, just that all in this area right here. So hence you're going to have still dented metal right here where you can't pound it anymore, because it'll just start ripping a hole right here. So they just basically got it kind of halfway out and bonded the rest and called it good. Also this is all just kind of corroded, and once I start, and that's another reason why they didn't do anything in this area right here, because once you start working that thinner metal, it's going to start ripping. So, and there's a couple cracks already. I don't know if you can see them, but they're right. Let's see, there's one right there. Kind of hard to focus on it, but there's one there. And then there's one up here, right there where my fingernail's at. That's the challenge, is getting this all out and not just totally destroying it, because it's already a little. So the first thing on the agenda is to get that corner filler piece off. It has a tack weld right in the corner right here where it attaches to the rear body panel, and it has some spot welds on the underneath on the flange. So I'll take those out. The hardest part about that is it's pretty corroded, so I'm gonna have a hard time identifying where the spot welds are at. And what you can do is just start prying, and you'll see where it's still attached, drill it out, then go on to the next hole. Probably have to do that. And then I will see what I can get out with just a 2x4 and a big hammer and try to get some of this out. That's what we're doing. It's all a process on these cars. You just pick a battle, fight that battle, finish that battle, win that battle, and then you move on to the next battle because everybody was kung fu fighting. Anyway, yeah, that's what you do. If you didn't notice, that was me trying to convince myself. I came to check out the frame real quick, so I'm gonna let you see it. I have to just make sure that there's nothing we need before I start tossing out all the old parts that we're not gonna need, so I can make space to put all the engine stuff that we're gonna use on racks and put everything away so that I have more room to work. When it comes to these cars, sometimes you have to be innovative. I made a body man's pogo stick, basically a lever with some hooks on it, and I have a chain that has hooks on it as well for body panels, and I got a couple pulls on this quarter panel done on this left side around that tail light section. I need somebody to come tomorrow and help me. I'll probably have one of the neighbors come and help me and give a tug on it, and then I'll relieve it by hammering the dents out, because you can't really do it with one person. You have to have somebody doing the pull or kind of moving the lever action so it pulls, and then have somebody or myself will hammer all the metal out that's dented and relieve all that metal, so it's not all just stuffed in that corner right there. That happened today, and I got all the engine parts put away and all the old metal brakes and the old drums and the backing plates for the front that we didn't need, because the car is getting, already has new front disc brakes on this car, and we went ahead with drums in the back like the original stuff because this rear end shortened, and we wanted to make sure that we can run reversed wheels on this car because it's going to have skirts on it. So we shortened the rear end, and then if you put disc brakes on the rear of these cars, apparently it pushes the wheel back out a couple inches. So it'll still be drum in the back with the shortened rear end for skirts and reverse wheels, and the front end's going to have or has disc brakes. And unfortunately, because I wanted this car to have an aircraft setup in it, the owner decided to go with airbags. So that's the problem with not doing your own cars, is you don't have full creative control, which, not mad about it, don't really care. It's not my car. He wanted a nice ride. He's getting more used to the idea of airbags. He used to be a strictly hydraulic guy, but he's bought a couple cars with airbags, and the difference in how they ride and the maintenance of hydraulics, he's changed his mind, especially on this car, because he's like, we're going to have so much money in it. I don't want to have to do any more cutting than we have to on the frame. I would have put hydraulics. I would have put an aircraft setup. If it was my car, it would have an aircraft setup. It's not, so airbags. Is it a lowrider still with airbags? You tell me. Because a lot of guys are running airbags now. I see pictures on the internet and videos of airbag cars, airbag lowriders. If you're a lowrider purist, you're going to say, hell no, it's not a lowrider anymore. It's a hot rod, but not your car. So, not my car. Owner wants airbags, it gets airbags. I really worked on this corner now and got that light fitting almost perfect. There's like a 30 seconds of an inch little wobble in it, but filler, I won't be mad with a 1/16 of filler right there. Plus I still have to put some metal to metal in here for this seam or aluminum reinforced filler, so I won't be mad at that. Before, this thing was so folded over and had the biggest gap right here. And not only that, but this corner was way too far in. I would have had to build that up with filler. It has about that amount on the other side as well, so that's how I judged how much I needed to come out. But that's about right where I want it right there. I just got to go in and touch up some thin metal with some welding in here and then refinish that. And then I still have some work to do. You see that flat part right there in here? I welded up a crack from pounding on that corner, because this corner was way in as well. There was a huge gap in that molding. So I'm working my way around all the way here. I'll work on this and then I'll have to get in here. The next step after I get this finalized for this tail light section, I will put my little homemade pull tab right around here and get somebody to help me and pivot off that bumper reinforcement section, because I'm replacing all that anyway. The aftermarket panel comes to about right here, goes all the way down, and then the other piece is all the way to the floor on the inside for the inner and outer lower quarters. So I'll put this here and then pivot off that like I did over here and try to get some of this out before I start cutting into all this over here. Unfortunately, since I had to have help for the pulling of this left side quarter panel around this tail light opening and on the quarter panel where the molding goes, I had to grab help. So it was like whenever somebody would come by, I just grab them randomly and be like, hey, can you help me? And they'd pry on the hustler stick, and then I would bang out the dent and relieve all that tension or that pressure that was in there on those wrinkles. But I got this corner looking really good. I got the tail light on there really nice, and I have the molding looking pretty good on this where it comes around on this bottom section by the bumper. I have that looking really good now too, but I still have to go in there tomorrow and kind of do a little bit of hammer and dolly work. I've been doing that, and I've been welding on the pull tab that I made and pulling and getting this all squared away on this corner right here. It looks 10 times better, and that's the difference when you do these cars. When you make sure that all the moldings lay flat on these cars and you're not having to build it up with body filler, you make the car look that much nicer. It's the attention to detail when you're doing this body work that makes these cars look 10 times better. You put this car next to a regular car that's just been quickly restored or quickly painted, and you can really tell the difference. All the gaps are nice and tight and look good and look aligned. Everything closes and opens nice, and the body looks straight and flat and like that much better with paint on it because the body's nice and straight. So that's where this molding would go right there, and before, that gap was huge on this end part. Anybody can halfway pull out a dent and then just glob a bunch of Bondo on there, a ½ an inch worth, and then call it good. But to really do these cars right, you have to get the metal nice. I went in here in this little flange on this rear bumper filler on this rear body panel and kind of straighten with the spoon in here and just hammering on the spoon and trying to get some shape back into this little flange area where that weather strip goes for that bumper, because they just totally foobarred the whole thing with pliers. I tried to straighten it out with pliers a little bit, and then I just went ahead and stuck a spoon in there. And if you don't know what a spoon is, it's just a long flat tool. This one right here, you can use it to adjust doors. You can use it to make shapes like in here and hammer on. And I just went in here and tried to clean that up, but it still needs a ton of work. This corner is way down on the bottom. It's got a big old dent right here, here still. All in here is all dented. And they just hammered over here out. So there's a bunch of pushed out dents from the inside out right here along this edge. So it's just a matter of getting this stuff looking nicer for filler, so I don't have to do so much filler work, and taking the time to actually relieve all this metal in here and make a nice shape so that it looks natural and flows. As far as this section under here is concerned, under the taillight, I'm gonna have to wait till I get this thing up in the air to really work this. I did work it a bunch and I got this flange looking pretty decent, but I wanna get it up in the air where I can get it at eye level and really work these flanges on both sides and in the rear here, because I just totally messed that up. I probably said that a million times, but I can't stress enough, if you're not gonna do these cars right, don't do them at all. Check the molding fit. As much as I want it to be done, today I worked on this left corner again, pecked and filed and metal finished, both this actual whole section and this rear body panel all the way to here on the bumper filler section down here. fixing that flange and getting this thing all nice and straight in here so it looks all natural. You have to make this thing look good so you're not putting a ton of filler on this car. I can't stress that enough, that I want this car to be done nice in metalwork, because I don't want a ton of filler on this car. The more filler on these cars, the more susceptible they are to chips. And this thing is going to have a ton of work on it. And the last thing you want is some big old Bondo and paint chip coming off this car because somebody bumped into it or whatever. If it's a chip, let it be a little one I can just touch up. So tomorrow I'll jump on that right side upper quarter panel with my Hustler pogo stick tool, and I'll try to twist that jam and manipulate it in the way that I want so it'll be a little higher. I'm going to work on it and work on it tomorrow. It's going to be a task because I can already tell how far off it is, that it's going to take a lot of work to make it look good and put it in the right position so it matches the trunk. It's going to be a mission.